Hey viewers, today's episode has spiders. That was a lame intro. And basically, there's absolutely nothing strange about this being a video about spiders after all. I built this channel on spiders. In 5 years running this channel, I've shown many unusual spiders, local and exotic, and noticed that the more expensive or unusual the spider, the more curious people get. For example, I brought Piotruś. Piotruś is a curly-haired tarantula, Triltocatl or Pilosis nicaragua, that I bought for about 50 zlotys. Yes, that's about what an adult male costs, but Piotruś is priceless to me, not worth just 50 zlotys. Since the spider market has its own rules like any market, some spiders cost less and others more. Today I'm bringing you something extra, and extra expensive. That's the kind of extra thing I have with me. Here is one container, and here on the table is another container, because listen, not long ago I posted a public video where I showed absolutely all my animals, and there were also all my most expensive animals, meaning those expensive spiders, expensive snakes, and so on. Recently, I made a reckless purchase that emptied my wallet. There was a spider shop promotion I couldn't resist, so I bought a pair of spiders I'll show you today, the stars of this video. I hope you'll like them, even though they're currently quite ugly and will only become beautiful as they grow. Now then, everything is about these two containers. And here you basically already have it written, so that's a spoiler, and a pretty big one about what's inside. Once, in this container, there was Liphistius ornatus. That's the famous trapdoor, the female that I moved from here to another container to make room for this little rascal. Currently, we have something called Hilobrachys sp tropical blue. And what's more, there's one tropical blue and another tropical blue. And this is a female and this is a male, so we have a pair. And now Hilobrachys sup. The tropical blue is a spider that is not a described species. It's not really known exactly what species it is. And it entered breeding very recently, or rather relatively recently, maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I don't have exact information. You'd have to ask the people who, let's say, popularized this. I'll use the word species. Because even though it's not a described species, it's still some kind of species. And sooner or later, probably within a few years, just like it happened with Hilobrachys natanicarum, which used to be known as Hilobrachys espinanfer. Scientists studied the electric blue spider, described it, and now it's officially called the electric blue short-legged in Polish. That's what happened with Hilobrachys sp. Tropical blue hasn't been described yet, but you can see it's distinct from electric blue, and in my opinion, a bit prettier, especially from underneath. Because if you look here into this container, I'll show you. If you look into this container, this is what the spider looks like. So, honestly, if I met a spider like this in the jungle in Thailand, I wouldn't expect that in Europe people would be willing to pay, for example, 500 euros for it. For a tiny spider. And yes, maybe I exaggerated a bit with the 500 euros, but the fact is that for this pair at around the 2 DC stage, which is about L45, I paid a total of 1,800 zlotys after a discount, because the regular price was 2,500 zlotys. A lot of money. And that's a lot of money, which is, let's say, unstable, because even if we actually spend, for example, those 2.5 grand on a pair of spiders like this, suddenly something can go wrong and those spiders can die on us. And then you have a problem. Fortunately, this isn't my first time dealing with this spider, because if you follow my channel, and I suspect you do, in a video where I showed my entire collection, I also showed, and I think it was a video for supporters, that I once had an almost adult female of this very species. I don't have that female anymore because she's now in Katowice at an exhibition with Brzemek from the Arachnokobi channel. That female is alive, she's doing well, and I hope she'll be around for many more years because these spiders, like almost all tarantulas, are quite long-lived. According to various sources, a female like that can live from 12 to 15 years. Well, these are still youngsters, and I hope that in the next 2 to 3 years I'll be able to raise them at least to adulthood, but I probably won't breed them. Before I explain why I won't breed them, a quick digression. These spiders live in Thailand, in tropical Thailand, so it's a tropical spider. Anyway, all spiders from the genus Hilobrachys are found there, roaming around Southeast Asia. And they are quite unusual because they live on rock walls or overhangs where there is a lot of light. And for example, if you look at what the terrarium for this spider looked like, which was created by Wojtas, who has a breeding facility in Krakow and whose breeding facility was once shown by Przemek in a video, those terrariums are made to resemble a rock wall where these spiders have their nests. However, I don't want them to breed due to a specific problem. From various sources and from different conversations I've had with people who had adult pairs of this species, it turns out that breeding this spider is extremely difficult. And why is that? Well, it's because after mating, the female simply dies. I don't know how it happens, I don't know why it happens, but an adult female like that is worth about 5 grand. I'm not comfortable letting a pair mate and then having the female die a week later. That's a bad situation. Some people also have this problem with these spiders, but I personally don't. When they're small, like they are now, about 2 to 2.5 centimeters, unfortunately they don't have the colors yet that make me love this species. The same color rule applies here as with Hilobrachys natanicarum, the electric blue spiders. And as we know, the electric blues are blue. They're beautifully blue, with a bit of a pinkish purple hue, but the tropical blue is, first of all, more blue-green, I would say, and secondly, this color is spread over a slightly larger area on the underside of the body. This makes it seem like the spider is more colorful, but to show its colors, it has to display its threat pose. From above, it's just grayish-brown and not very attractive. Still, it's a rare and beautiful spider. And here's a bit of a surprise and an interesting fact, because while the human eye does perceive the underside of this spider as blue-green, and the brain processes it as blue-green, making us think the spider is blue-green underneath, that's not entirely the case. Because as it turns out, both the electric blue, the tropical, and the vast majority of blue animals, including insects and arachnids, are actually not blue. And this is what's called structural color. This means, and a great example here are butterflies from the Morpho genus. They are blue, or at least we think they are blue, but this blue color is created by a special three-dimensional structure of the scales on their wings, and these scales reflect light in such a way that the human eye sees them as blue. And here is a very interesting piece of evidence that this is true. Water works, but it's slow. So I'll demonstrate with another solvent instead. I'll use ethyl acetate, a chemical for anesthetizing insects in entomology. All you need to do is sprinkle such a solvent on the wing of a morpho, and suddenly it turns out that the color of the wing changes. It changes because the wing scale structure shifts, so we see green instead of blue. The same principle applies to these spiders. Obviously, I'm not an idiot. I'm a bit of an idiot, but I'm not dumb enough to pour solvent on live spiders, so I won't do that. Another example. Once I was preparing a very large female Taniharum, that's the electric blue tarantula, and after about 24 hours in 100% humidity, because I had to soften the spider, the color of its underside was green. The structure of those colorful parts on the spider's legs simply changed in such a way that I saw a different color. And just like I told you before, with this female, I think the blue color still won't be visible, but here we have a male, he's sitting more or less in this spot on this leg, and we have a molt. And listen, on this molt, if I turn up the light a bit and catch it at the right angle with the macro, that blue-green color is already starting to show, so that's really awesome. And that's all from me. Thank you very much for watching. If you learned something interesting, leave a thumbs up, those subs, not subs, and so on. And I'll see you in the next video. Hey!